Hello, everybody, and welcome to. We're going to go through the indictment against Trump. I think the most recent indictment, and the one that from a, I'm just going to share this, from a precedent standpoint is probably the most significant. The one that might have the most impact on law in America in the long term. Now, obviously, we can just take the normal and probably accurate perspective that this is all smoke and mirrors. America hasn't had rule of law for decades now. Trump is just part of the system. Trump is a puppet. We can do all that, but that's kind of boring. And I think it's more interesting if we at least pretend that this stuff matters somewhat. That Trump would actually do something if he got back into power, and we're going to go through this indictment because I actually do think that this is pretty important. And this is something that could have major ramifications on the future of America. The future of certainly any speech related thing. Because some of the stuff, I haven't read this yet, but from what people tell me, some of the stuff in this is kind of unprecedented in the history of kind of jurisprudence in the U.S. So we're going to go through this. I have Kurzweil fired up. I've used other text to speech programs in the past, but I don't know. It just seems to be the best. What do you think, Rain? Do you think it's the best one? Rain says meow. So I don't know what that means exactly. But come over here, girl. Let me give you a pat. I'm just giving Raina, just rubbing her ears and giving her a little cheek scratch. You're happy to see me, aren't you? Okay, so now that that cringe is out of the way. So, Trump has been indicted on a bunch of random shit. There was the Stormy Daniels thing, which I don't even understand. Someone tried to explain it to me. Basically, they had to, pretend that the statute of limitations hadn't run out for something, even though it had run out years ago. And they had to change the standards of evidence and all this other nonsense in order to get any of these charges against Trump to even come. There was the sexual harassment charges or whatever, which also made zero fucking sense. Um, just kind of an endless stream of bullshit. Now, why does any of this matter? So, it's a generally accepted principle in most political systems that aren't complete banana republics that politicians have a certain immunity to being prosecuted for any of their crimes, regardless of how bad they are. In that, if somebody gets taken down or caught in a scandal, they will be allowed to retire peacefully to a comfortable job or to keep their pension or something like this. And this is something we saw in China, wherein I forget his name, but Mao's direct successor lost the power struggle to Deng Xiaoping. He was allowed to remain a member of the Central Committee and a party member and get his pension, etc., but he was denied any access to power. Similarly, when Khrushchev fell from power, Khrushchev was able to keep his apartment, his dacha, and a decent pension rather than being executed like in the Stalin era. And part of this is there's this unspoken agreement that if politicians started to prosecute each other for the crimes that they actually legitimately committed, basically everybody would be in jail and the system could not function in any way. And the entirety of mainstream, I guess, political discourse would just be filled up with people going after each other. Also, especially in a country like the United States, where all judges are partisan appointees, it is impossible to prosecute anyone of an opposite party from yourself and not have it declared political. Um, all things are inherently. There's plenty of people in US history that are so obviously corrupt. Let's look at Biden and all the insane shit that's going on with him and Hunter. And we've known about this stuff for years. I've heard about this stuff back when he was a senator, back when he was VP. Like, there's so much evidence. There's all these people who've come forward. There's the text messages. There's like there's 10% for the big guy. His son's a complete and total degenerate. Like, we all know all this shit, okay? Like, this is obvious. Just look at any of these politicians who came from a middle class background, entered politics, and when they leave, they somehow have a net worth of tens of millions of dollars. Like, I understand that being a representative or a senator pays well, but the amount of money that they like come out with is an amount that could only be gotten through some form of embezzlement or corrupt land deals or payoffs or something like that. And we all know it. And I think, as Epstein proved, a lot of these people are child predators. I mean, I guess you could say that's a conspiracy theory, but I think it's pretty obvious post Epstein. And none of them could be prosecuted for that. Clinton probably raped multiple women. We can't prosecute him for that. All of these people are basically above the law. Um, and this is the exception. There's a couple cases where it's so flagrant, or it's so politically expedient to get somebody and throw them in jail that you can do it, but it's very rare. And this kind of breaks it. This like attempt to defeat Trump through lawfare and get him in jail is something I don't think we've ever seen in American history before. Even with people as corrupt as like LBJ or Clinton or any of these people, none of them have ever been, to my knowledge, held legally responsible for any of their crimes. And like the crimes that we bring against Trump are like literally breathing. It's breathing, and he read some classified documents on his toilet. Um, and that's really like about all they got him on. And people can talk about a bunch of stuff, but these are things that every other president did. These are things that Biden did, and none of them are getting prosecuted for it. And this kind of makes me wonder, like, maybe Trump is a threat to the system. Maybe he is going to go full scorched earth in his second term. I doubt it, but the fact that they've like gone so insane with trying to shut him down really makes me think there's something here. It's also interesting that they don't think they can beat Trump in a general election, so they're trying to disqualify him for it. I mean, this is something you see in like banana republics where they find some tax problems with the main candidate and they aren't allowed to run. Um, I've seen people argue that what Trump's gone through is less than what they do to opposition leaders in countries like Russia. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but this kind of like law, like just random nonsense, to try to exclude a former president from running for reelection is like something you'd see in. No, this literally happened in Brazil. This literally happened in Brazil. It's something that happens in Argentina. It's something that happens in countries that have coups every other week. Now, before we get into this indictment, I just like to say I firmly believe that no election fraud has ever taken place in human history, that Stalin's election was legitimate, that Mussolini's election was legitimate, that the elections that took place in America before black people could vote were legitimate, that the whole idea that anyone was denied the right to vote, including before female suffrage, is a conspiracy theory, that black people have always had complete and total suffrage, that Stalin won election legitimately, Franco won election legitimately, Pinochet was the democratically elected leader of Chile. I just like to say that there's never been electoral fraud in the history of the world, and I'm very disappointed in Trump for maintaining this. Not only has there never been electoral fraud, there's never been any electoral errors. No person in human history has ever screwed up a ballot. They've never made a mistake when they were marking it. They never no one ever like dropped the ballots. There was never a burst pipe. All that stuff is a conspiracy theory. We're not even talking about election fraud. We're talking about ethics in video game journalism. So let's get into this. This whole thing is insane. Let's see who all is indicted under this. Donald Trump, Giuliani. I'm just seeing if I don't recognize a lot of these people. Where is Sidney Powell? Yeah, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 people are indicted in the state of Georgia. That's a lot of people when you think about it. All could possibly go to jail or whatever. So let's see what the charges are against Trump and his team. Let me know if the audio balance is okay, if I need to turn the speed up or down.
With the offense of violation of the Georgia RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations, Act, OCGA. Section 1614(4), c, for the said accused, individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and...
Okay, so let's just think about this for a minute. So, they're claiming that it's this is a RICO case. So RICO, and I just recently read a book about the mafia, was set up so you could charge people who are members of a criminal organization. So this is like for people who are members of MS-13 or the LA Kings or the Colombo family. And basically they're alleging that being a member of Trump's campaign is the equivalent of being a member of the mafia. Like, already this is pretty keynote.
And together with unindicted co-conspirators, in the state of Georgia and county of Fulton, on and between the 4th day of November 2020 and the 15th day of September 2022, while associated with an enterprise, unlawfully conspired and endeavored to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of OCGA. Section 16-14-4, b, as described below and incorporated by reference as if fully set forth herein, contrary to the laws of said state, the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. 13. Introduction.
Now, I didn't want to spoil this, but I've watched some people talk about this. Apparently in this, it says that the First Amendment doesn't apply to anything to do with elections, that if lawyers offer advice, then they're criminally responsible for if the person they offer advice to commits a crime. It also states that citizens do not have the right to petition the government, which I think is like the Fourth Amendment or something. Anyways.
Defendant Donald John Trump lost the United States presidential election held on November 3, 2020. One of the states he lost was Georgia. Trump and the other defendants charged in this indictment refused to accept that Trump lost, and they knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump.
So, what they are alleging here is not that Trump was wrong. It's that, like, they were sitting in this smoke-filled room and nobody there had a legitimate question. And once again, like, keep in mind, and when we talk about ethics in video game journalism, the issue isn't so much even that people were posting fraudulent reviews. It's there were people who were like, maybe there were some issues with changing the entire video game review system overnight during COVID. And maybe there was some ballots that weren't signed properly or weren't checked properly. And stuff like that. So what this is alleging is not a single member of that is being indicted had any real legitimate doubt as to the outcome of the election. Is that an unfair reading of that? Is that, like, just sarcasm aside, is that unfair? That's how I'm interpreting it. I don't think it is.
Trump. The conspiracy contained a common plan and purpose to commit 2 or more acts of racketeering activity in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, and in other states. 14. The enterprise at all times relevant to this count of the indictment, the defendants.
They're gonna call it the enterprise. It's like the commission and the mafia, or like the Illuminati council or something. Dude, Trump isn't this competent. His campaign isn't competent enough to come up with something like this.
Defendants, as well as others not named as defendants, unlawfully conspired and endeavored to conduct and participate in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere.
This is like the most melodramatic shit I've ever seen. Unintended co-conspirators, 1 through individual 30, and others noted unknown to the grand jury. Okay, this is gonna be fucking amazing. Let's see. This is fun already.
Criminal organization whose members and associates engaged in various related criminal activities including, but not limited to, false statements and writings, impersonating a public officer, forgery, filing false documents, influencing witnesses, computer theft, computer trespass, computer invasion of privacy, conspiracy to defraud the state, acts involving theft, and perjury.
Biden's lawyer literally pretended to be the lawyer of the head of the committee of the House Republican investigation committee. Like literally, they lied and tried to get evidence removed from the record. So they're gonna have to prove to me in this that people stole shit. So let's see here.
This criminal organization constituted an enterprise as that term is defined in OCGA. Sections. The defendants and other members and associates of the enterprise had connections and relationships with one another and with the enterprise. The enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members and associates functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the enterprise. The enterprise operated in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, in others.
Like, once again, I wish I lived in the world that the left thinks that we live in. Like, I wish that Trump, like, was competent enough to have, like, this Illuminati-type organization that was able to, like, do this shit. So it is actually legal for Trump to still run for president when he is in jail. So the precedent is Eugene Debs was able to have his name on the presidential ballot while arrested for sedition during World War I. So Trump could theoretically run for office while in jail, get a conviction, and then run the country from his jail cell like some fucking South American kingpin. Also, I think Trump should do like a troll face for his mugshot. Like, gives a thumbs up to the camera. Okay, so I don't... Like, why is New Mexico in D.C. here? Also, how bad you have to be to, like, for someone to accuse you of committing a crime in D.C.?
The enterprise operated for a period of time sufficient to permit its members and associates to pursue its objectives. 15. Manner and methods of the enterprise. The manner and methods used by the defendants and other members and associates of the enterprise to further the goals of the enterprise and to achieve its purposes included, but were not.
Let me know, guys, if the audio balance is okay and if this is going too slow or too fast for you. Just because I can't hear because I'm recording.
Included, but were not limited to, the following. 1. False statements to and solicitation of state legislatures. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, appeared at hearings in Fulton County, Georgia, before members of the Georgia General Assembly on December 3, 2020, December 10, 2020, and December 30.
Okay, so before we get into this, they're literally claiming that their crime is appearing at hearings. Like, it's illegal for them to appear at public hearings. Okay, let's see here.
At these hearings, members of the enterprise made false statements concerning fraud in the November 3, 2020 presidential election.
It's not fraud, it's ethics and video game journalism.
Election. The purpose of these false statements was to persuade Georgia legislators to reject lawful electoral votes cast by the duly elected and qualified presidential electors from Georgia. Members of the enterprise corruptly
Had they cast the votes yet? I thought the votes were cast on a later date. I didn't think they were cast like the day of. Also, what does false statements mean? Let's go through. So once again, to are they taking? Okay, so let's pretend that this whole thing is so fucking nuts. So are they alleging that if you make any statement that later turns out to be false, although I don't think any of this was ever disproven in a court of law, that's a crime? So, like, if I thought that if someone asked me, is your father a serial killer? And I said no, and it turned out later that he was a serial killer, I would be charged with like covering it up because I wasn't aware. That's an insane standard.
Solicited Georgia legislators instead to unlawfully appoint their own presidential electors for the purpose of casting electoral votes for Donald Trump.
Also, wouldn't Milley be in jail? Because Milley said that momentum was somewhat in the Taliban's favor, and he said that Russia lost the war in Ukraine like last year. So shouldn't he be in jail for giving false statements?
Trump. Members of the enterprise also made false statements to state legislators during hearings and meetings in Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in November and December 2020 to persuade legislators in those states to unlawfully appoint their own presidential electors.
I'm not a constitutional law expert, but my understanding is they can appoint whoever they want to be their electors. And this is something that happened during the Nixon-Kennedy election in the state of Hawaii. I think it's just as a rule they do that. I don't know.
Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, made false statements in Fulton County and elsewhere in the state of Georgia to Georgia officials, including the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Members of the presidential election in Georgia in favor of Donald Trump. Members of the enterprise also made false statements to unsolicited state officials in Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, created false electoral college documents and recruited individuals to convene and cast false electoral college votes at the Georgia State Capitol, in Fulton County, on December 14, 2020. After the false electoral college votes were cast, members of the enterprise transmitted the votes to the President of the United States Senate, the Archivist of the United States, the Georgia Secretary of State, and the Chief Judge of the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. The false documents were intended to disrupt and delay the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021, in order to unlawfully change the outcome of the November 3, 2020, presidential election in favor of Donald. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, falsely accused Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman of committing election crimes in Fulton County, Georgia. These false accusations were repeated to Georgia legislators and other Georgia officials in an effort to persuade them to unlawfully change the outcome of.
Once again, like, can you prove that Trump and all his and his entire campaign team believed that that they knowingly lied about all of this? Okay, so let's say that there was no shenanigans. Let's just say there was 100% ethics in video game journalism. For this to stick, don't you have to prove that how can you prove that none of them legitimately believe that? Like, I don't think you can. They have to have like literally a conversation. Like, they have to have recorded a conversation where Trump's like, yeah, it's bullshit. I know I lost the election, but I'm gonna. So Charlemagne says, how can they unlawfully change the outcome when the outcome wasn't decided yet? Yeah, because the new president had been sworn in.
Outcome of the November 3, 2020, presidential election in favor of Donald Trump. In furtherance of this scheme, members of the
Once again, if I'm making a mistake here, let me know. I'm just reading this as it's written. That's my interpretation.
the enterprise traveled from out of state to harass Freeman, intimidate her, and solicit her to falsely confess to election crimes that she did not commit.
It makes it sound like they had some fucking hitmen who they like sent. It's like Joe Exotic. It's like Joe Exotic hiring the hitman to go kill Carol.
Commit. 17.5. Solicitation of high-ranking United States Department of Justice officials. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly solicited high-ranking United States Department of Justice officials to make false statements to government officials in Fulton County, Georgia, including the governor, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the President pro tempore of the Senate. In one instance, Donald Trump stated to the acting United States Attorney General, "Just say that the election was corrupt, and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman." 6.
Like, what does that prove? That proves nothing. Like, it could be, like, that proves shit. That could just be, like, the guy wasn't sure how to word it, and he's like, just I'll explain it to the public. Okay.
Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly solicited the Vice President of the United States to violate the United States Constitution and federal law.
Has corruptly, so this is a pet peeve of mine. I don't think the term corruptly has been defined anywhere. Maybe that's like a legal terminology. I just don't like it when technical terms are used and not defined.
Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly conspired in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to unlawfully access secure voting equipment and voter data. In Georgia, members of the enterprise stole data, including ballot images, voting equipment software, and personal voter information.
Okay, you're gonna have to like prove this. That sounds really hard to prove. I don't even know how you would prove that. What's my opinion on Vivek Ramaswamy? Sorry, that's semi-relevant, so I'll actually answer that. I don't know a ton about him. I think he's running for a cabinet position. That's what Real American Politics thinks. That he knows he can't win, but he's running like to appeal to Trump's side of the party. And if he has a good showing, like if he gets 10%, that's way better than anyone thought he would do. And then he hasn't attacked Trump. He hasn't said anything against it. And Trump can make him Secretary of Commerce of something. And there's no shame in losing when you do way better than what was expected. Like a lot of people give what's his name a lot of credit. That guy from New York who did very well in the governor election but lost.
The stolen data was then distributed to other members of the enterprise, including members in other states. 18.8. Obstructive acts and furtherance of the conspiracy and the cover-up. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, filed false documents, made false statements to government investigators.
Let me just go on because this is kind of repeating itself. Okay, let's see here.
On or about the 4th day of November 2020, Donald John Trump made a nationally televised speech falsely declaring victory in the 2020 presidential election. Approximately 4 days earlier, on or about October 30.
Well, doesn't that happen all the time where like someone declares victory or they say they're confident in winning? Also, all the votes weren't counted yet. Like it took like months in Nevada to count, whatever.
October 31, 2020, Donald John Trump discussed a draft speech with unindicted co-conspirator Individual 1, whose identity is known to the grand jury, that falsely declared victory and falsely claimed voter fraud. The speech was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
So, Trump, before the election happened, claimed that he won? That doesn't even make sense from like a grammatical. So Trump said, "I won the election." That hasn't happened.
Conspiracy, Act 2, on or about the 15th day of November 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani placed a telephone call to an indicted co-conspirator Individual 2, whose identity is known to the grand jury, and left an approximately 83-second long.
I love this identity is known to the grand jury. It's like, we know where you live, and we're going to come for you.
3-second long voicemail message for unindicted co-conspirator Individual 2 making statements concerning fraud in the November 3, 2020, election in Fulton County.
I mean, even like Trump only lost by what, like 20,000 votes or something? Like, it's not as if this was Obama versus McCain or something. This was a razor thin election.
County, Georgia. This telephone call was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy act.
This is the evidence, guys. We have an 83-second voice message. It's like as long as a YouTube short.
Act 2. On or about the 19th day of November 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Sidney Catherine Powell, and unindicted co-conspirator.
Okay, let's see here. But like the votes weren't even counted at the time. So
this telephone call was an overt act in.
Okay, let me scroll down. Press conference. It made false statements. These were overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this is fucking amazing. This is what they're indicting this dude for.
In the email, David James Schaefer stated that Scott Graham Hall, a Georgia bail bondsman, has been looking into the election on behalf of the president at the request of David Bossie and asked unindicted co-conspirator Individual 4 to exchange contact information with Scott Graham Hall and to help him as needed. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
So, if I'm reading this properly, he's literally just like asked some dude his opinion. Could you look into this for me? And that's a crime? Okay.
On or about the 20th day of November 2020, Donald John Trump and Mark Randall Meadows met with Majority Leader of the Michigan Senate Michael Shirkey, Speaker of the Michigan House of Representatives Lee Chatfield, and other Michigan legislators in the Oval Office at the White House, and Donald.
I like how it starts off with them saying Trump met with politicians publicly. The president met with state legislators publicly, and that's a crime.
Donald John Trump made false statements concerning fraud in the November 3, 2020, presidential election in Michigan. Rudolph William Louis Giuliani joined the meeting by telephone. This meeting was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
So literally, Giuliani, who was Trump's lawyer, so Trump publicly meeting with state officials and having his lawyer present is a crime. Okay. That makes sense to me. Okay, this one's fucking amazing too.
On or about the 21st day of November 2020, Mark Randall Meadows sent a text message to United States Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania and stated, "Can you send me the number for the Speaker and the Leader of Hall Legislature? POTUS wants to chat with them." This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
What the fuck? Okay, so this dude is being indicted for asking for someone's cell number. Like, am I like misreading this? Send a text message. Can you send me the number of the Speaker of the PA legislator? The president wants to chat with him. That's a conspiracy. So like if you like text a coworker and you're like, I lost the boss's number. Could you send it to me so I have to talk to them about something? That is a conspiracy to these people. Yeah, Rain, it's bullshit, I know. Like, that is one of the most insane things I think I've ever read. Is, like, it doesn't even say fraud here. It doesn't say corruption. I'm going to have to screen cap this. Yeah, Rain, I know it's bullshit. But literally, it's a crime that he sent a text message asking for another dude's text. Like, fuck it. Like that is insane.
Rudolph William Louis Giuliani placed a telephone call to Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives Russell Rusty Bowers. During the telephone call, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani made false statements concerning fraud in the November 3, 2020, presidential election in Arizona and solicited, requested, and importuned Bowers to unlawfully appoint President.
Doesn't Russell Rusty Bowers sound like a hitman? Like the mafia, the Genovese crime family is gonna call in Rusty Russell to take these guys out.
Unlawfully appoint presidential electors from Arizona. Bowers declined and later testified to the United States.
Okay, so Kitty Cat, you missed, and I'm just going to repeat this because it's so one of the crimes that they are alleging that was committed is that, and I quote, Mark Randall Meadows sent a text messages to United States Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania and said, "Can you send me the number for the speaker and leader of the PA legislator? POTUS wants to chat with them." And that was asking like for a dude's phone number is a conspiracy.
States House of Representatives Select Committee to investigate the January 6 attack on the United States Capitol that he told Donald John Trump, "I would not break my oath." The false statements and solicitations were overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. Act 8, on or about the 25th day of November 2020. Rudolph William Louis Giuliani and Jenna Lynn Ellis appeared, spoke, and presented witnesses at a meeting of Pennsylvania legislators in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. During the meeting, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani made false statements concerning fraud in the November 3, 2020, presidential election in Pennsylvania and solicited, requested, and importuned the Pennsylvania legislators present at the meeting to unlawfully appoint presidential electors from Pennsylvania. During the meeting, Jenna Lynn Ellis solicited, requested, and importuned the Pennsylvania legislators present at the meeting to unlawfully appoint presidential electors from Pennsylvania. Donald John Trump joined the meeting by telephone, made false.
Okay, I'm just going to skip ahead because this is really boring. Let's see. I'm just skimming through this. Presented witnesses, which is apparently illegal. Let's see here. Okay, 1 second. What was I? So they're claiming it's illegal that. Okay, let me just let it read this because this is once again apparently illegal.
On or about the 25th day of November 2020, immediately after the meeting of Pennsylvania legislators in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where Rudolph William Louis Giuliani and Jenna Lynn Ellis appeared, spoke, and presented witnesses, Donald John Trump invited a group of the Pennsylvania legislators and others to meet with him at the White House. Later that day, Donald John Trump, Mark Randall Meadows, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, Jenna Lynn Ellis and unindicted co-conspirators Individual 5 and Individual 6, whose identities are known to the grand jury, met with a group of Pennsylvania legislators at the White House and discussed holding a special session of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. These were overt acts and.
So once again, this is like conspiracy means you talked about committing a crime with another person, and basically anything you do that can be connected to the potential crime counts as part of the conspiracy. So like looking up people's phone numbers it's like an act of conspiracy. I don't know. That just
Jury.
Once again, like this is also alleging that there's something wrong for. Like, even if that is the case, they're basically implying that them publicly meeting with people is some sort of suspicious criminal activity. Like, I don't think... Okay, let's see here.
On or about the 26th day of November 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani and Jenna Lynn Ellis placed a telephone call to Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives Brian Cutler and left Cutler a voicemail message for the purpose of soliciting, requesting, and importuning him to unlawfully appoint presidential electors from Pennsylvania. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
Okay, but they are saying that these things are actions that were committed in furtherance of a crime. That these are in some way a contribution to an illegal activity. I don't know. It's kind of we're I understand what you're saying and I appreciate that, but I do think it's kind of I think the implication here and the way that this will be read by the public is that it was illegal for them to talk to people, like publicly talk to public figures, is somehow illegal. Like if we go through this, like these are literally all him publicly talking to people. Let's see here. I'm just skipping ahead a bit. I think literally every time that he talked to the Arizona legislation. I mean, but can it really be a conspiracy if it's like done in the public? Will they show any transcript? No, they won't. I mean, obviously they won't. Okay, so Kitty Cat, the basis of this entire thing is they allege that no one on, and you guys can correct me if I'm strawmanning them. They allege that every single member of Trump's inner circle knew that there was no election fraud, that he had legitimately lost the election, and all of this was a knowing lie. That no one involved in this was acting in good faith. That all of these people were willfully lying. That Trump did not at any point in time, and you guys can correct me if I'm strawmanning them, believe that he had won the election. He made this entire thing up as like a backroom conspiracy to try to make himself president in like a coup.
23. Act 19, on or between the 1st day of December 2020 and the 31st day of December 2020, Donald John Trump and Mark Randall Meadows met with John McEntee and requested that McEntee prepare a memorandum outlining a strategy for disrupting and delaying the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021, the date prescribed by law for counting votes cast by the duly elected and qualified presidential electors from Georgia and the other states. The strategy included having Vice President Michael R.
Now, I don't know what this is in reference to, but senators are allowed to object. Like, that's a constitutional power they have. I'm pretty sure someone has objected at, like, every single election. Like, if you've ever seen the movie Fahrenheit 9/11, there's a long segment in it of various Democrat representatives objecting to Bush's election. So I guess those people should be in jail.
On or about the 1st day of December 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani and Jenna Lynn Ellis met with Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives Rusty.
Okay, but my understanding is conspiracy in RICO was introduced primarily to deal with the mafia and other criminal organizations of people they knew were involved in crime, but they couldn't exactly prove it. Okay, I'm just gonna skip ahead. Oh my god, they're literally okay. I'm gonna have to screen cap this. This is fucking amazing. They're literally bringing up tweets now.
On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account @RealDonaldTrump, Georgia hearings now on @OANN. Amazing. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
So Trump making a tweet. He made a tweet. This is illegal. This is part of an illegal act. Him making a tweet on a public platform followed by tens of millions. It's so fucking ridiculous.
24. Act 23. On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Jenna Lynn Ellis, and Ray Stallings Smith III committed the felony offense of solicitation of violation of.
Okay, let's see here. Once again, knowingly and willingly and unlawfully making at least one of the following false statements. So once again, they are alleging here that not a single um, person involved in this legitimately believed any of these things. I don't think I'm strawmanning them here.
That at least 96,600 mail-in ballots were counted in the November 3, 2020 presidential election in Georgia, despite there being no record of those ballots having been returned to a county elections office. 2. That Dominion voting systems equipment used in the November 3, 2020 presidential election in Antrim County, Michigan, mistakenly recorded 6,000 votes for Joseph R. Biden when the votes were actually cast for Donald John Trump.
This is the kind of G-slur thing I see a lot with fact checkers. Like when they say Trump lied because he said 50,000, but it was actually like 49,500. And him rounding is a lie because it's not, whatever. Let's see here. Okay, here we go.
On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Ray Stallings Smith III committed the felony offense of false statements and writings, in violation of OCGA. Section October 16, 20, in Fulton County, Georgia, by knowingly, willfully, and unlawfully making at least one of the following false statements and representations to members of the Georgia Senate present at a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee meeting. 1. That 2,506 felons voted illegally in the November 3, 2020 presidential election in Georgia. 2. That 66,248 underage people illegally registered to vote before their 17th birthday prior to the November 3, 2020 presidential election in Georgia. 3. That at least 2,423 people voted in the November 3, 2020
That 10,000 dead people voted. That Fulton County election workers at State Farm Arena ordered poll watchers and members of the media to leave the tabulation area and continued to operate after ordering everyone to leave. Didn't that happen with the burst pipe though? Like, isn't that publicly acknowledged? I don't know. I've never seen an election where they just stop voting. Has anyone here ever seen that before? Like where just there's a complete stop to voting. I mean vote counting, and like you get no results for a couple of hours. In the case of Nevada, it stopped for weeks. Maybe it's because I'm Canadian and they normally have all the votes counted within like 2 hours of the election. It just seems really weird to me. But okay, here we go.
On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account @RealDonaldTrump. Wow. Blockbuster testimony taking place right now in Georgia. Ballot stuffing by Dems when Republicans were forced to leave the large counting room. Plenty more coming, but this alone leads to an easy win of the state. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy, Act 20.
It's a conspiracy to make public statements. But yeah, like Charlemagne said, okay, so if these statements, okay, so basic logic, regardless of what the actual law says, if these statements are presented as evidence that he did something illegal, the statements have to be illegal themselves, at least on a certain level. So they are alleging that he committed a crime by doing this. Put them in voting machines. Great job, Brian Kemp. Overt acted for furtherance of conspiracy. Okay.
On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump met with Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives Brian Cutler in the Oval Office at the White House and discussed holding a special session of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
Once again, I think this is implying that it's illegal for him to publicly meet with, like, it's saying that people do not have the right to petition their government for redress. Let's see here. Butch Miller. Actually, no, sorry. Because YouTube, I think, literally in their terms of service before they revoked it, said you couldn't claim that they stopped counting the votes, even if you said that there was no shenanigans. Like, okay.
On or about the 6th day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account @RealDonaldTrump. Gee, what a surprise. Has anyone informed this so-called, says he has no power to do anything. Governor @Brian Kemp Gaw and his puppet Governor @Jeff Duncan Gaw, that they could easily solve this mess, and win. Signature verification and call a special session. So easy. https://5c b4qdyzpu.
Okay, so that is once again not a okay. Okay. Okay, here we go. Here's the next illegal thing they do.
I am working on setting up a call for you with the Speaker and the President pro tempore tomorrow. I am also making the leadership aware of the importance for Trump electors to meet on December 14. Please provide the citation to the requirements of the duties which they must comply with. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy, Act 35. On or about the 6th day of December 2020, John Charles Eastman sent an email to Robert David Cheeley, an indicted co-conspirator.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, I think this is the professor who got. No, maybe it wasn't. Okay, because there's like some professors who got indicted as part of this, because they offered legal advice or they offered their opinion. Let's see here. Sign the petition for a special session. Okay, so what's the...
On or about the 7th day of December 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account @Rudy Giuliani a retweet of unindicted co-conspirator Individual 8, whose identity is known to the grand jury, that stated, Georgia Patriot.
I don't know. I get that that's how they legally do it, but it sounds like some fucking veiled threat. Like, oh, we know who you are.
Patriot call to action. Today is the day we need you to call your state Senate and House reps and ask them to sign the petition for a special session. We must have free and fair elections in GA, and this is our only path to ensuring every illegal vote is counted. @RealDonald.
So, I guess they're alleging that it's illegal to call a special session. I mean, pretty much, right? They're saying that it's illegal for the Georgia State Assembly to call a special session to discuss things. Okay. Makes sense to me. Okay. Cheesebro. Kenneth John Cheesebro from Wisconsin. That sounds like a meme name. Let's see here. Okay, I think they should have this thrown out on the grounds that the platform is called X and not Twitter. They should file that. Okay. See here. Let's see here. It asked unintended co-conspirator to get somebody. Okay, I get that, Charlemagne, and you are correct, but it's so retarded, and the implication here is also to set the precedent that you can't do any of these things. They are trying to set the precedent that all these people were guilty of something or other, And so anytime any of this stuff happens in the future, they can use this precedent to indict them.
On or about the 8th day of December 2020, Michael A. Roman sent a text message to an indicted co-conspirator Individual 4, whose identity is known to the grand jury, stated that he had spoken to Misty Hampton, and asked unindicted co-conspirator Individual 4 to get Misty Hampton to attend the hearing before the Georgia House of Representatives Governmental Affairs Committee on December 10, 2020. This was an over...
Okay. Let's see here. Cheesebro. Let's see here. I still think the unnamed conspirator thing is a veiled threat. I know that it's probably a legal procedural thing, but okay. Other Nevada electors. Okay, so once again, emails to public email accounts.
Act.
Okay, so
Conspiracy.
here's an example if we're going to go off of the logic here. So because of like some bullshit with how the student aid system works, I couldn't get any funding to help me pay for my master's program. So I wrote my member of parliament, my MLA, and the federal minister of education about my problem and said, I think I should be entitled to the money. It doesn't make sense that I'm not. Can you try to do something about this? So they said, no, we checked the rules and you really don't qualify. So according to this, I'm guilty of fraud for asking that question. But that was a conspiracy. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just going to skip ahead because this is really... This was an act of racketeering activity. That's pretty serious stuff. Sorry, I'm just skipping through to try to find whatever if any of these like remaining ones are interesting. Despite the fact that Trump lost the election, okay, I don't think that like Biden wasn't sworn in yet. Okay, sent an email. I think that they should if there were Republicans who weren't pussies, what they should do is if this goes through, they should indict Hillary and Gore and anyone else who was involved with that. So well, also I would be having, you know what else it would be? I would be talking to an elected official. And according to this, talking to an elected official as part of a conspiracy is illegal. So I would be illegally and corruptly soliciting my MLA and my member of parliament to try to overturn an existing law or something like that. Because as a lawful, legally, naturally born citizen of Canada, I do not have the right to talk to my member of parliament and ask them for assistance.
On or about the 13th day of December 20...
Okay, let's see here. Have a single of these like been like proven anything? Like, I don't know. Okay, I also just don't think it can be a conspiracy if I understand the legal definition if like tweets because they were openly done. Like it's not like it was smoke. It's not like something behind the scenes. And I still think this entire thing is based on the idea that Trump knew he was lying about all of these. Let's see here. We're up to Act 85. Is this whole thing just going to be acts? Okay, let me just go ahead. Let's skip ahead a bit because this is literally one of these is going to be like Trump had diarrhea or some shit like that. Let's see. In Detroit, that 200,000, that thousands of dead people voted. Thousands of ballots were dumped. Okay. Let's see here. He was unwilling or unwilling. He has no clue. Okay. Once again, public statements are illegal. Yes, this will be posted. I'm not sure how long I'm gonna leave this up on my channel. Maybe I'll leave this up for a week or two, and then I will just transfer it to my alt tech platforms. Because technically, at the moment, there is no restrictions on talking about ethics in video game journalism. And this was just too funny to not talk about, but yeah. So now they're listing like every phone call that this dude made as like a crime. He sent a text message. I wonder if like sexting is, it probably is. It'd be funny if like he was sexting her and they like posted all of the texts like an episode of NBC Dateline. Let's see here. Okay, we're up to. Okay, we have another list of people who made phone calls to each other. Let's see here. All right. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm probably missing some of the parts. I'll do a search once we're like through most of this because I'm pretty sure that yeah, here we go. Here's an example of where meeting with a lawyer to ask an opinion is that.
On or about the 5th day of January 2021, John Charles Eastman met with Chief of Staff to the Vice President Mark Short and Counsel to the Vice President Greg Jacob for the purpose of requesting that Vice President Mike Pence reject slates of presidential electors from Georgia and certain other states during the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021, the date prescribed by law for counting votes cast by the duly elected and qualified presidential electors from Georgia and the others.
Publicly asking a lawyer for legal advice is a crime eventually. Let's see here. Trump attempted to persuade Pence. Let's see. Just looking through this. Just trying to find this. Owl. Okay. Okay, let me see what this.
On or about the 17th day of September 2021, Donald John Trump committed the felony offense of solicitation of violation of oath by public officer, in violation of OCGA. Cubic millimeter April 7, 16 and October 1, 16, in Fulton County, Georgia, by unlawfully soliciting, requesting, and importuning Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, a public officer, to engage in conduct constituting the felony offense of violation of oath by public officer, OCGA. Section October 1, 16, by unlawfully decertifying the election, or whatever the correct legal remedy is, and announce the true winner, in willful and intentional violation of the terms of the oath of said person as prescribed by law, with intent that said person engage in said conduct.
So, telling someone to do their job is a conspiracy, I guess. Okay. It's part of the conspiracy. Let's see here. Number of is far greater. Um, I believe the Georgia law is that if more ballots are challenged or are in doubt than the margin of victory, then you run a second election. That is my understanding of how it works. So it doesn't even need to prove anything about them. It's if there's a question mark over. And it was so close that there probably was. Okay, let's see here. All right, it's illegal. So they're saying here that not remembering something is a crime, which would make literally everything. Uh, that she was there for just a few minutes. Like, so they're saying like we're challenging her definition of just a few minutes. Like it's more. It was like it was a couple of minutes. It was 10 minutes. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, these are the counts. Okay. Let's let it go through the counts. Okay, count two. So this is the second crime that he committed. Uh,
For the said accused, individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and together with unindicted co-conspirators, in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia, on the 3rd day of December 2020, unlawfully solicited, requested, and importuned certain public officers then serving as elected members of the Georgia Senate and present at a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee meeting, including unindicted co-conspirator individual 8, whose identity is known to the grand jury, Senators Lee Anderson, Brandon Beach, Matt Brass, Greg Dolezal, Steve Gooch, Tyler Harper, Bill Heath, Jen Jordan, John F. Kennedy, William Ligon, Elena Parent, Michael Rhett, Carden Summers, and Blake Tillery, to engage in conduct constituting the felony offense of violation of oath by public officer, OCGA. Section October 1st, 16.
Once again, publicly talking to somebody and expressing an opinion is illegal. So if you were to say that, so if you were to, I guess if you were a Democrat and you were to talk to Greg Abbott and say, I think I disagree, or I don't think you have the right to ban abortion, that would be illegal. Okay.
And the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia, do charge and accuse Rudolph William Louis Giuliani with the offense of false statements and writings, OCGA. Section October 16, 20, for the said accused, in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia, on or about the 3rd day of December 2020, knowingly, willfully, and unlawfully made at least one of the following false statements and representations to members of the Georgia Senate present at a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee meeting. 1.
Are we, so once again, they have to prove that Giuliani knowingly lied. I don't understand how you can prove that. Unless you like literally have a audio tape of him saying, okay, whatever.
Said statements being within the jurisdiction of the Office of the Georgia Secretary of State and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, departments and agencies of state government, and county and city law enforcement agencies, contrary to the laws of said state, the good order, peace and dignity thereof. 72. Count 4 of 41, and the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia, do charge and accuse Ray Stallings Smith Al with the offense of false statements and writings, OCGA.
Once again, I don't know how you can prove that that these people didn't believe any of these things were true.
Said statements being within the jurisdiction of the Office of the Georgia Secretary of State and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, departments and agencies of state government, and county and city law enforcement agencies, contrary to the laws of said state, the good order, peace and dignity thereof, 73, count 5 of 41, and the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia, do charge and accuse Donald John Trump with the offense of solicitation.
Okay, once again, they're saying petitioning the public legislators is illegal.
For the said accused, individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and together with unindicted co-conspirators, in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia, on the 10th day of December 2020, unlawfully
By this logic, would it be illegal to ask to solicit Trump to pardon Julian Assange?
unlawfully solicited, requested, and importuned certain public officers then serving as elected members of.
Let's see here. Okay, made at least one of the following statements. Okay, this looks fucking amazing.
1. That it is quite clear from the State Farm Arena video from November 3, 2020, that Fulton County election workers were stealing votes and that Georgia officials were covering up a crime in plain sight.
So, he said that to him, the video looked like they were stealing votes. So, it's illegal that he had an interpretation of a video like that. Like, is it like, it's literally like he was paid. He was illegal because he was paid to make a positive review for a video game. Okay, let's see here. Use the excuse of a water main break. But didn't a water main break happen? So, did the water main break happen or not? Because are they claiming here that's illegal to claim that it did happen? Because I remember, like, CNN talking about it. Like, am I crazy? Didn't CNN say that? I don't know. Let's see here. Okay. Where was the let's see here. Where was the thing where they impersonated public officials? Because I want to see that. Because if they did that, then like Biden's lawyer, once again, Biden's lawyer called and pretended to be the like. Okay, so just a side note, because this was like one of the most insane things I'd ever seen in my life. So the Republicans were investigating Biden's son's nonsense, and they had like the what are they? IRS agents. They had Biden's best friend. They had all this other like insane shit come out, and the Republicans sent this legislation, this testimony to the court and said, "Look, we have all this information. You can't give Hunter a plea deal because it's obvious that all this other shit happened, and you have to take this into account." So Biden's lawyer called the county and pretended to be the lawyer of the let me see if I can find this. The lawyer from the the Republican House of Representatives. It was like, we want all this evidence withdrawn, and like that is, I don't see how that's not fraud if this is fraud. Like that is, I don't know. They claim there was a miscommunication.
For the said accused, individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and together with indicted and unindicted co-conspirators, in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia, on and between the 6th day of December 2020 and the 14th day of December 2020, unlawfully conspired to knowingly and willfully make and use a false document titled.
This is here. I'm going to post this in the chat. This is from noted conspiracy theorist website, The Hill.
Document titled Certificate of the Votes of the 2020 Electors from Georgia, with knowledge that said document contained the false statement, "We, the undersigned, being the duly elected."
Okay, let's see here. Like, I don't know, to me proving intent would be like if a dude says my wife is a whore, I'm gonna kill her, and then he kills his wife. Like, I don't know, that seems like okay. Seeing here. Just gonna go ahead. All of this is just very repetitive, and they're just kind of like repeating the same thing over and over again. Count 22. Oh yeah, here we go. Sent the accused. The accused sent an email. Sending emails is illegal. Request authorization to send false writing and documents to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. Sending emails is illegal. Hey, so it wasn't illegal when Hillary had a secret email server. That wasn't illegal, but it is illegal when they use like their public email accounts to send stuff. I guess like because I sent the my MLA my email, I used my like real email account that like has my name in it. I guess that's illegal then. I guess is what they're saying here. Okay, you keep repeating the same shit. Okay. What's this? Knowing? Okay, here we go.
Knowingly and unlawfully filed a document titled Verified Complaint for Emergency Injunctive and Declaratory Relief in the matter of Trump v. Kemp, case L. 20 CVO 5310 MHC, in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, a court of the United States, having reason to know that said document contained at least one of the following materially false statements. 1. That is many.
That is like the most G-slur lawyer speech I've ever heard. Having reason to know that said document contained at least one of the following materially false statements. There's like 5 different qualifiers in there. Let's see here.
And the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia, do charge and accuse Donald John Trump with the offense of false statements and writings, OCGA. Section October 16, 20, for the said accused, in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia, on or about the 2nd day of January 2021, knowingly.
And let's see here. Once again, they have to prove that, like, Trump and all these people knew that this was all like a lie. Okay, let's see here. Oh, this one seems.
And the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia, do charge and accuse Sidney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton with the offense of conspiracy to commit election fraud, OCGA. Cubic millimeter February. For the said accused, individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and together with unindicted co-conspirators, in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia, on and between the 1st day of December 2020 and the 7th day of January 2021, unlawfully conspired and agreed to willfully tamper with electronic ballot markers and tabulating machines in the state of.
Is there any actual like evidence for any of this. I don't know. Maybe that's in another document. So like we're adding in Sullivan Strickler, and like Sullivan Strickler's some like nefarious data security company that like was involved in this, whatever the fuck this was. Okay, let's see here. Um, just trying to find if there's anything else we've missed. Okay. We're gonna get Kathleen Powell. Okay. Okay. So there we go. That is the thing. Uh, I have seen no evidence presented anywhere in this document that proves that Trump or any of his people willfully and knowingly committed any crime, that there was anything resembling a conspiracy or like any of that. Because once again, at no point in this does this attempt to prove, and maybe this is just how indictments work. There's no evidence that any of the things that they said at the time they knew were untrue, and that they were willingly lying about. Let me just see if I can find the thing where it talks about legal advice. Okay, so it's not advice. I will say this. Um, this was more competently written than the one against Tucker Carlson. Remember the insane shit that was in that one? Um, this at least I think was mostly like written at a like a high school level. But yeah, so okay, so what is the? Let me just look up the U.S. Constitution. I just want to check what the amendments say. U.S. Constitution. So looking at the amendments, this would what would this strike down? Um, this would strike down the First Amendment because it would say freedom of assembly is wrong, freedom of the press is wrong, freedom of speech doesn't exist, and there is no right to petition government. Let's see, what is the definition of the right to petition government? The right to petition government for redress of grievances is the right to make a complaint or seek the assistance of one's government without fear of punishment or reprisals. This can be traced back to the Bill of Rights, the Petition of Right, and Magna Carta. In the United States, the right to petition is described as the right to petition all state and federal courts and legislators, as well as the executive branches of all states and federal government. That is apparently also illegal. So basically, their argument here is that the First Amendment doesn't exist, which I mean, it kind of doesn't exist, but it's just yeah. So that is the analysis. That is what it means for the future of America. It's just full banana republic territory at this point in time. The whole thing is just insane. I don't really know what else to add. I hope you guys took some enjoyment from this madness. God bless everybody. We'll all get through this together.